You are listening to
Marty and the Breaux.
one thing that I think is really useful about the conversations like this with you is that, we talk about, Marty and the Bro talks about looking at situations as they are not two-sided, they're a sphere, and they have multiple perspectives that you can look at them. And one of the things that's interesting about you is you have been on two ends of the justice system. Not of the justice, not like you've been in law enforcement yourself, but I'm saying you have been essentially a criminal, and now you're not a criminal at all. But you have that perspective. You have that perspective that somebody who's truly a lifelong criminal doesn't have, because they haven't been on the other side of that sphere. Whereas you really have an ability to look at these things in multiple dimensions now, especially just everything you've been through. So that's why I think this is really particularly useful to hear a story like this. So anyway, you end up in jail, and
so that and
county jail, right, or city jail.
So this is where it gets really complicated, right? Well, not even just complicated; it gets real dense at this point, right? So I'm just thugging in the streets, and I end up, of course, you get caught up. You're in the streets, you get caught up, right? So I went to jail behind some shit, and I went to jail, but don't mistake me going to jail for it, meaning like I got in trouble and went in front of a judge. Judge was like, "You got in trouble. This is your sentence." Bangs a gavel, and now I have to carry out the sentence. That's what most people think of when they think of like going to jail. That's the process, right? But that's rarely ever what happens. That's not how it happens, right? What happens is you go to jail and you sit in there waiting to be seen by the judge. You fighting your case, like waiting for, they call it discovery, all that stuff. They kind of just reset your court date, and you sit in jail. If you can't afford bail, you sit in jail waiting for a judge to hear your case. Then you be sentenced. So what happens a lot of times is, saying you're sitting in jail before the innocent or guilty verdict is met. And a lot of people, regardless of whether it's a violent or non-violent crime, a lot of times that's not the deciding factor. What the deciding factor really is do you have enough money to get out or not, right? It's more of a tax, right? So what happened with me is
they set bail for you.
Yeah, I had a bail, but of course I couldn't know who's going to pay the bail. Yeah, so I couldn't afford bail. And what the complications of that. So for example, like I sat in jail for 2 years fighting my case. I wasn't sentenced to 2 years. I didn't go to jail and the judge was like, "This is bad. You have 2 years." Bang. No, I sat in jail for 2 years waiting for a judge to give me time. You know what I'm saying? Just sitting there, they call it dead time, you know what I'm saying, when you're locked up, right? You know what I'm saying? Especially if, it doesn't mean anything. Like for me, in my opinion, like I got probation, right? I got, because it was my first ever, major offense, my first offense as an adult. So I had, got some juvenile issues, but at this time I was just turned 18 or something. And 17, whatever, it doesn't matter. But I got this is my first adult offense, so usually unless you murder somebody, they're gonna give you probation, you know what I'm saying? So I got probation for my first offense, and if I could afford bail, I would have got that exact same probation sentence 2 years earlier. Does that make sense? So instead of, if I could have bailed out, I would have probably been reset, a couple times, been able to be out of jail, establishing my life so I can prove to the judge, like, hey, because you got to go to the front of the judge eventually. Now, now imagine if I'm behind bars the whole time. So when I go in front of the judge, I'm in orange. You know what I'm saying? I'm going in front of the judge as a criminal already, right? Versus if I had been able to bail out, you know what I'm saying? And I could go in front of the judge in my nice little suit, show him that I've been working since I got in trouble because I bailed out, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, this is what I've been doing since I got out of jail. I did do wrong here, or I didn't do wrong here, or whatever. But either way, this is what I've been trying to do right here. And that's what a lot of white people, that's what happens with a lot of rich people. That's kind of already what happens with people who can afford lawyers and, bail, get out of bail. That's what happens with people like me who can't afford bail. You just sit in jail, literally, like I said, for 2 years, and then you end up, signing a plea bargain, and they do it on purpose. So that way, you get desperate enough to sign for whatever. It's just like, you see a light at the end of the tunnel. That's what that paper is. It's like, I'll sign. Give me that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just sitting here. Because you're just sitting there, you know what I'm saying? And it's kind of like you don't know, and you have no information about what's going on. There's just no information. And it's not like, you can watch, get on the internet and look up something, and you know what I'm saying, like, it's not that easy, right? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Everything is on hold. You're in
your
a
life is on
black
pause.
hole.
Yeah, your life is on
Your life is
pause,
on.
bro.
Mm.
And the world's going around you. Everything's going. Things are moving around you. It's the weirdest feeling, and it feels like it's one of the weirdest feelings ever in jail, man. Like, because you can feel like, if you ever see like somebody's been in jail, like anybody from the hood knows, niggas been locked up a while, man. You can tell like their youth is like preserved, because it's almost like your life is on pause. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't live as much, so their skins, like, like older people look younger if you've been sitting in jail the whole time. So you're sitting there working out and just sitting in something, right? You know what I'm saying? Versus out living your life, stuff like that, and getting sunlight. You get a lot less sun in jail, right? You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
like, it's your life, if you're on pause, like literally, it's like pausing someone on TV, and it's a human being. You're just kind of like in limbo, because think about it, nothing moves forward. You don't get anything accomplished really in jail. You know what I'm saying? You're just stuck at that moment. So since I go to jail, and it's what it feels like to me now. Like, it feels like I've been stuck in that, that summer after high school, because that's when I went to jail. It feels like I've been stuck in that summer for 10 years now. You know what I'm saying? Like I haven't been able to really move forward past that, right? Because that's when I got in trouble. So a lot of things were put on a halt in that moment. Like, you know what I'm saying? For example, with going to jail, when I went to jail, I never had a driver's license, for example, right? And even though I didn't have a driver's license, they still suspended my license, my non-existent license. That was just a stipulation of the probation. They were like, okay, you have to have, it's just like, they just blanket. These are all the things, they don't, there's no nuance, right? You know what I'm saying? It's just a blanket.
Just a checkbox that they
Yeah,
do.
exactly. Like, no driving for you either. You know what I'm saying? It's for somebody like me who already, it's not like I have a large support system. You know what I'm saying? In Houston, if you don't have a car, you're not going to make it. What I mean, you're not going to make it, at all. You have to have a vehicle in Houston to get around and live and be it's not really very good public transportation. You're going to starve and die poor. You know what I'm saying? So, I legally can't drive. And how do you unsuspend a license that doesn't exist? It's one of those things where to this day is still a problem, because I don't have a license still, because it's just one of those things where it's just mad red tape. You know what I'm saying? And something that's all stemming from, being in, getting locked up. It affects so many different aspects of your life, and then imagine trying to talk to somebody about this. It's just like, there's no point. It's like,
No, I know you get frustrated sometimes when you try to explain to people that you don't have a license, and everybody's response is, well, why don't you just go get a license?
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, all right,
and you're like, oh, you know what? I didn't think of that. Yeah. Thank you so much for helping me out. I should just go get a license then. Let me do that. Just wait there. I'm gonna go get a license. We'll get this fixed up.
It's ridiculous.
No, it's not. It doesn't work that way.
Exactly. Because it's just my license that doesn't exist is suspended. So I have to unsuspend a license number that doesn't exist. Like, people don't kind of like that part's lost on people, where it's like, and I'm not the only person that deals with this. There's like public defenders that like specialize in this area. You know what I'm saying? This specific thing. God. That's how bad. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, I met people like, no, that's what we do. We make sure get people their driver's licenses. And I'm like,
because you actually, I thought it was, if you fast forward to, I think last year, you did go in front of a judge because you made an appointment or something to get that problem fixed. You still don't have a license as of the taping of this show.
Yeah. So
but you have made progress. But you remember when you went in front of or you were talking to the clerk or something like that?
I went in front of a judge. No,
looked up something.
Yeah, so what I did was I made it to the point where I went in front of a judge and got like signed thing like, hey, unsuspend this guy's license. It's like a thick paper about this thick, and it's got my whole history of being, getting in trouble with driving, because all my arrests since that one and lockup, since the probation, every arrest since then has just been traffic violations. All of them. Just been, you don't have a license, you shouldn't be behind this vehicle. That's it. But anyway, but I trying to rectify that. I bring that to the DPS office, or to the DPS or DMV, whatever you call it, right? You know what I'm saying? And their response to me is, I understand, but that's a whole different department. He doesn't have the power to do that, to unsuspend this license. That's what I was told. And I was just like, okay, I don't understand. So what, like, This is a judge.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. Look at this. Look at this. That's a city seal there. You know what I mean? They were like, yeah, that's not this department. It's not. He doesn't do this over here. I was like, well, then who does this? You know, and they were like, oh, you gotta. And it was this at this time COVID happened, so the steps after that point was like I had to make another appointment. But like I said, that's when the lockdowns had happened. You remember, I don't know if you remember. It's exactly when that happened. Just terrible timing on that. But you know, like think about the fact that it's been a 10-year, a decade-long process trying to deal with this, license, and it's, it affect. Like I said, this all stems from this one, situation with incarceration, and and being locked up. It's all a pretext to it's all a pretext to stopping you, right? And getting.
Well, wasn't there one moment when somebody was asking you, so why do you need a license? And you're like, because, and you pulled up some case or something and showed them.
Oh no, okay, I see what you're saying. I see. So that was I had to get the judge to sign that paper. I had to give a reason to why I had to give a reason why I need a license, why I need to drive. I was trying to get an occupational driver's license, right?
Okay.
And there's a study done by Princeton. This is a study I found, like Princeton does a study every year, seeing what the biggest barriers to upward mobility is, and consistently every year, the number one barrier to mobility they find is
transportation,
lack of access to transportation every time. People can't get to where the opportunities are. That's simple as that. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I cited that as my reason. You know what I mean? I was like, well, they're like, why? I was like, why? Because science. I don't know what, like, that's why. I don't, it's just, I'm going to die pouring in pain, and there's nothing I can do about it right now. I would really like to do. Yeah, let me be a pause. All right, yeah. So after I cited this Princeton study, the judge and the count first, the clerk, the lady, I just give it to her and then she gives it to the judge. She read it. She didn't like it, I think, actually. She was kind of like, I don't know. She was thinking more of like a personal reason. But I told her, I was like, no, I'm not. She actually, if I'm not mistaken, she kind of hinted towards me changing it. And I was just like, no, I'm leaving that because that's what the truth is, right? And then when it got to she was like, all right, whatever, I'm do what I want, right? So,
whatever, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll be back in jail, and so you'll be back in jail in a week.
Exactly, right? So when I finally got in front of the judge, I see him reading through it. He said, no, how you old white people are. Gotta look at it from over here. So he's looking at the thing, and he asks, he reads the Princeton study, and he's like, is this true? Like I said, there's transportation being the biggest barrier towards upward mobility. I was like, yes, sir. It's, very true. And he was like, oh, okay. Well, and I kind of started explaining to my story. He was just like, because he started looking at my history of driving record, and he noticed it was just driving without it's literally driving with license invalid, driving license suspended, driving license suspended, driving license suspended, driving license suspended, because and he's just like, why do you keep driving? I was like, sir, like I have, and like there's not enough public transportation. You have to drive out here. I promise you, man, those last ones you see, I was stopped on my moped, and he looks at me and he's literally like, moped? Like kind of like, he's like, you could see he was just like, wait, what? Because he sees all these traffic infractions, and I'm explaining to him, I was like, sir, I've been stopped here 4 times on my moped, man. I know it's legal to drive. I think you can ride things under 50 cc's, and you don't have to have a driver's license, right? And I'm explaining to him all these things, and he's just listening. He kind of, judges, they don't want to hear all that shit, so he cuts me off real quick. He's just like, all right, and he's like, you can kind of tell he's just like, this is stupid, like. You kind of tell on his face, he was just like, give this kid a fucking license, he's trying to.
What's kind of interesting though is he's a judge, and theoretically he's seeing situations like this nonstop. You think he'd be a little more aware of this information?
Yeah, well,
I guess not.
I think, I found it's not that surprising that people don't know things like this, especially because, like, even with me, like, you kind of, most of us don't seek the information. We just listen to what we're told. Like, even the people listening to this podcast, most of them aren't going to go look up that Princeton study. They just heard me say it. Now they're going to tell other people exactly what we said, right? You know what I'm saying? So a lot of what people know is just what some shit they heard. And most shit people hear is wrong. You know what I'm saying? So the judge is probably in his mind, he knows he sees the statistics of black people getting in trouble for this, that, and the third, and that's probably where his, he doesn't think about the nuance, side of that, the why, or
No, and he's probably got white hair and
old
been
ass
doing
white.
that job a long time.
Exactly.
He's
definitely that guy.
He's seen it all. He's jaded. He doesn't care.
It does exactly. Like you could tell, like, it wasn't like when he heard my story, like judges. And I don't know if they're supposed to be like this, but it seems like they don't, like I guess they treat everything on a case by case basis, right? Something like that. Like they don't. It doesn't seem like. I guess, I mean, well, isn't that, I think that's weird though. So the reason why I think that's weird is, if I notice like a pattern somewhere, in cases or in issues, or if it's just nothing but black kids coming through, you know what I'm saying? I would kind of question, I'd be like, hey, do we have money for studies or figure out what's going on in this area? Why is this happening? Like, you get what I'm saying? Like there should be some kind of nuance, like, like, I don't know, like some kind of bell ringing, like, okay, all right, maybe we can, instead of just banging the gavel, we can try to, stop this before it gets to me, right? You know what I'm saying? Like you would think.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, you're dreaming.
Yo, you like what you just saw? Make sure you like, share, subscribe so the algorithms can algorithm or whatever sorcery they do. Follow us on our socials, links all down in the description, and let's keep rocking.